words for us today from UNESCO. Things I took away from her are policies by governments and by citizens. And again, occurring with this theme that we are the ones that have to push these agendas forward and not rely on others. Disability, COVID-19 best practices, combating that as we're going through this once again, is in making sure our community is not only heard, but validated and valued. Inclusive response to COVID-19, proposals for action, another one that UNESCO has put forward as well, and doing it through evidence-based outcomes as well. The next person that's going to be presenting to us, I just met this lovely individual, and she's going to be our next speaker. You are in for an amazing treat. But first, the museum that she works at is dedicated to preserving Expo history, authorized by the Bureau International des Expositions, BIE, in collaboration with Shanghai Municipal People's Government, history from 1851 to 2020 and beyond. We're looking at 1851, that is 170 years that we celebrated that this year. And so we have 50 years, of course, with the United Arab Emirates being pushing forward and advancing. And then they just added their 170th member to the coalition as well. So please welcome this person who has the duality dilemma. That means she is living in California and she is seen as Chinese, and living in China, she is seen as American. How about we just take the labels away and call her Lingming Ma? Please take the stage.
Thank you very much, John, for the lovely introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. As John mentioned, we are the official museum of the BIE, dedicated to preserving Expo legacy and extending Expo's effects. Expos strive to create a blueprint for a better future by constantly evolving and improving our relationship with the world we live in the hope of creating more inclusive and mutually supportive societies. And people with disabilities have always been central to this blueprint. In fact, this notion can be traced back to the first ever World Expo in London, 1851, known as the Great Exhibition, where B.F. Palmer's patent lathe won a silver medal and laid the foundation for the establishment of the American Artificial Limb Company. Then in 1893 at Chicago's World Fair, Helen Keller's visit was documented in St. Nicholas magazine, where she was received with a warm welcome, similar to the cheerful smiles of Expo volunteers and staff we see here in Dubai. The president and managers of the exposition did all they could to make her visit pleasant. This exemplified the supportive nature of Expos to follow. They graciously encouraged her to pass her fingers over the exhibits, even opening showcases and enclosures so that she could examine rare works of art. They discovered that she saw more with her fingers than they did with their eyes. She said in one of her letters, "I am like the people my dear friend Dr. Holmes talks about, with eyes in their fingers that spy out everything interesting and take hold of it as the magnet picks out iron fillings." Helen Keller's dear friend, Alexander Graham Bell, accompanied Keller to ride the first ever Ferris wheel at 1893 Chicago's World Fair. Bell had learned finger spelling to communicate with his mother, and therefore he acted as Keller's personal guide. Bell's invention of the telephone, exhibited in 1876 Philadelphia's World Fair, was what laid the foundation for the hearing aid. Thanks to the availability of a device that could control the loudness, frequency, and distortion of sounds, the first electric hearing aid was invented in 1898 by Miller Reese Hutchison. His design used an electric current to amplify weak signals. Based off of Hutchison's progress, in the 1920s, vacuum tube hearing aids were produced. These tubes were able to turn speech into electric signals, and then the signal and the sound itself could be amplified. Now, I know I've taken you on quite a whiplash journey through history, but bear with me as we make our way to 2010. So the first time in 159 years of Expo history, Expo 2010 in Shanghai introduced the Sunshine Pavilion, hosted by China Disabled Persons Federation, with the theme of eliminating discrimination, mitigating poverty, encouraging care for life, and spreading sunshine. The pavilion was emblematic of a society based on mutual care. The overarching theme of Expo 2010 was Better City, Better Life, and one of its descendant programs is World Cities Day, a United Nations Day of recognition focused on improving the quality of life in cities. So every October 31st, the global community gathers to focus on evaluating how we can put supportive communities at the heart of the cities of the future. This befits this year's focus on the International Day of People with Disabilities, leadership and participation of persons with disabilities towards an inclusive, accessible, and sustainable post-COVID-19 world. What better foundation to spearhead this initiative than Cities for All, a global campaign for inclusive and accessible cities? In an increasingly urbanizing world, our cities must make the most of developing opportunities by ensuring advocacy and rights of all persons, particularly persons with disabilities and older persons. Cities for All seeks to help everyone fully understand what a disability is and how it affects interaction with one's environment and the services needed to build truly inclusive cities. We are a community of common destiny. The commitment to realizing the rights of persons with disabilities is not only a matter of justice, it is an important investment in our common future. We welcome you to visit the World Expo Museum and learn the historical developments of Expo since 1851 to their current relevance and how people with disabilities have always led the way. There you will see that treasuring the legacy of Expo is meant to inspire and renew our shared international ambitions. Thank you.
What an amazing history dating back, and what a part of a legacy that we are. How will people remember this expo that we have had here in Dubai in 2020, 2021 right now? How will we be remembered of the actions that we have done? Lingming, thank you so much for your remarks today and being with us. Your graciousness of how you've presented to us is exemplary. So thank you so much for what you've done and what you've gifted to us.